Good morning, everybody. 15th of May, 2025 at 7:30 in the morning. And I guess this is the day we're supposed to be all apprehensive, waiting for this peace process. Hopefully it's not going to be a piss process, which it probably will be anyway. At least that's what Zelensky wants it to be, a piss process or a piss plan or something like that. You know how he is. But I wouldn't expect anything from this. It's not going to be anything explosive anyway, but I got some explosive stuff. And it's not necessarily about so much news about what's going on today, but I'll just try to relate things within the news because I was looking some things up. It's the way I do things, unfortunately. You start, like even in my Russian, it's a hard time for me when I had the classes to actually do the homework because I get interested in some other little tangent and I start looking at, oh, that's interesting, and you look a little further and anyway, that's how that is. But let me get on to the news here instead of going into more tangents. So that's supposed to be direct peace talks, and it turns out it's not going to be. We were kind of hearing rumors, is Putin going to be there, and Zelensky, and then Donald Trump said I might go there, but it looks like it's not going to be that way. So I don't think Donald Trump is going to show up at all. And he said himself, after the next day, he said, oh, I'm going to what do you say? Marco is going to be there. Marco Rubio and Steve, whatever his name is, Wycliffe. Actually, he's the guy that the Russians like. Steve Witkoff. That's his name. But it looks like Lavrov is going to be there, and I don't expect anything from this. Don't expect anything from this because even though Ukraine has ended up in the long run losing much more than they did originally back in 2022 in March when they had these peace talks and they were ready to sign the agreement. And I guess it depends on your opinion of how that got sabotaged. Some people are acting as if Boris Johnson alone, but if you listen to Scott Ritter, and I think maybe there's even indications that that's actually true, that it was actually ordered by the United States that Boris Johnson scuttles the peace talks, and on behalf of the United States, and that's probably more accurate. The United States has a hand in a lot of things. So anyway, I got to try to keep going on the things. I got some explosive stuff, even though a lot of it is not necessarily news. And I thought, today's a very cold day, and I was thinking that nobody would be out, but still people walking, cold and very cloudy. But okay. Ukraine is not ready. Ukraine is not ready for this yet. And I don't know what it's going to take to get Ukraine ready because before they still had the possibility of retaining the entire Donbass, which is, at that time it was Lugansk and Donetsk. And then since that time, they pretty much lost all of that. Matter of fact, they did lose that. And they've also lost Kherson and Zaporozhye. They've lost 2 extra districts. And, we're hearing about these big advances by Russia, but then if there's such big advances, how come they still haven't taken any more oblasts besides those 2? And I'm sitting there looking at the map, and to me, it doesn't look like it has changed that much. They keep saying all these settlements that Russia is getting, but when I'm looking at the map, I don't know, it's very strange, and I think even Ukraine admits, losing these territories. They're talking about all these hundreds and hundreds of kilometers, but the map doesn't change. And I'm wondering, well, is Russia actually that successful? I'm just saying that, and maybe that is something that Zelensky can use in his favor. I don't know. But now they got this settlement, now they got that settlement, and of course some of the ones are very big, like what was this? What's that called? Sudza, I guess, when they got that, the Russians. But I'll tell you what, to me it's not going to be that much impressive. I'm not going to listen and think that they made any huge gains unless, for example, they get Nikolaev or Kharkiv. If they get those, then of course I'll say, wow, that's some significant gains. But before that happens, I'm not going to be, hailing all these great successes of Russia yet. And as we keep hearing, there's always at least attempts at incursions. It took Russia a long time to expel the Ukrainians, and of course very many Western troops Did I say that? Did I say Western troops? Yes, of course I did. There were French and there were British and Colombian and lots of Polish. And for the most part, it seems like most of the troops that were in there, they were foreign troops. And, you know, a lot of things. I was fooled, even though Russia never said that North Korea was not involved. It turns out they were involved. And I don't really even know how many. It may be up to 600 troops, but, you know, they showed these troops that took part, and there was Kim Jong-un sitting there with them, and there was maybe as many as 60. So I don't know if they played a big part. So anyway, let's keep going. I'm sidetracking myself already. Anyway, there's so much information. So the U.S. says Russia wants too much. Remember that? But you know, you think about this. Russia, they entered this to defend people. And they want too much. So they want to get rid of Nazism. Is that asking too much? You know? Is that asking too much? You know, unless you deny the fact that these people are Nazis, and they're Nazis. They have swastikas. They say Slava Ukraina. That was a phrase from Bandera, and he was openly a Nazi. And they want to annihilate Jews. They want to annihilate Russians. They said the Soviets, but they were killing Russians. They killed Poles. I think, what was it they said? I think they killed up to, I think it was, anyway, it turns out that they killed as many Belarusians as they did Poles, about the same amount, even though Belarus had far less people, so they killed a far larger percentage of the population of Belarusians. But anyway, oh no, but they weren't Nazis, and they just massacred. They massacred entire villages. You know, like I said, it's a lot of people. I've been here many times, and it's very strange that here's a colder day and less sunny, and yet more people are walking. Anyway, let's keep going. There was some talks from Scott Ritter, very, very fascinating all the time. And some people look at him as one of the best military analysts, or even political. He's actually risen to that because he's been very good, and a lot of his things are very accurate. But he was actually, like, what was this, maybe 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago, he was kind of acting like he changed and he was a supporter of Donald Trump. But it turns out he's not. And he's never said that he was, but he was saying a lot of positive things. And he said he was giving Donald Trump his 100 days, and see what happens after 100 days. And that's fair, because I think Donald Trump and a lot of people were talking about, well, what's going to happen in that first 100 days? And it turns out not much of anything, really, not much of anything, except a lot of problems. A lot of problems with trade. I think Donald Trump, you know, he's a guy that likes to upset the apple cart and believe that he's going to turn. He creates these big problems, like a lot of people do. That's a big Jewish philosophy. Create a lot of problems and then come up with the solution. And you know, Donald Trump, I believe that was his plans. And I don't know. It's not really turned out that well. Maybe we'll see what happens in the long term with his tariffs and all that. But as far as Ukraine and all that is concerned, he was saying he's going to end it immediately, and then this time, and then that time. But it looks like, I'll tell you what, it looks like it's going to be dragging on. This might go on for years. It looks like it's going to be almost an endless war. And it's not necessarily just Joe Biden. It is not just Joe Biden. And I've been saying a lot of time that it's like a Joe Biden war. Joe Biden, you know, he's the one that set all these preconditions that got us into this war while he was vice president under Obama. I mean, you just look at the things he was doing. A lot of people were saying he was the president of Ukraine, and lots of things. I'll talk a little bit more about this too, add some things. But when Trump came in, he's the one that started giving the lethal weapons to Ukraine, and he's even bragging about it. Obama gave them blankets and I gave them javelins. So, in other words, I'm the big supporter of the war for Ukraine. But wait, he wants to stop the killing and he wants to be the peace president, but yet he's given all of these lethal weapons that kills people and things like that, and continues and expands the war. But he's a peace president. So Scott Ritter is absolutely right, and that's an undeniable fact. It's undeniable. If you listen to Scott Ritter, a lot of the stuff that he's talking about, it's like undeniable. So you look at it from his perspective, and it's like, well, this guy, he's right. He's right about all this stuff. And, you know, it's like, so Donald Trump, he's coming out with a bunch of talk. And like I've said in videos, and like a lot of people, Jesus said himself, know them by their fruits. And, and Donald Trump is also saying now he's going to open up China. Well, what the heck? I thought Nixon already did that back in the 70s. Isn't that what that was about? Well, he opened up the U.S. to China at that time. And I'll tell you what, China is already opened up. China opened up China. I mean, it's like, it makes you wonder, well, who's going to open up the United States? Why doesn't Donald Trump start to open up the United States, before he says that he's going to go around? I don't know. Donald Trump, it's just a lot of feel-good talk. So anyway, getting off more tangents. I wasn't even going to be talking about this. So Ukraine's not ready yet, and Russia wants too much. So Ukraine is clearly losing this, and yet Ukraine is coming out and making all these demands. Russia comes and says, okay, well, let's have a no conditions peace talks in Istanbul. And then, like I said in another video, Ukraine says, okay, we'll agree to the no conditions on one condition. Wait a minute, wasn't it that no condition? So, and I guess he wanted this 30-day truce, which obviously, and I think even Scott Ritter was talking. I'll tell you what, a lot of the things that Scott Ritter says, I don't watch everything that Scott Ritter puts out or whatever, but this was also from him, and I think it was saying, and he's absolutely right. I started thinking more and more and more about this. They wanted this 30-day ceasefire, and then you heard about this, the Casey Jones train express, riding that train high on napkins and whatever. Very strange stuff what was going on there. Nobody's quite sure about that. Somebody was just asking me about that in the metro. A guy that's a Belarusian, and so many people, and they're really, really suspicious. And I'll tell you what, that might have been a napkin. I don't think that was any kind of a stir stick and all that, but there's even people that are positive that's a napkin, and that positively is a stir stick, but yet they're still saying these guys are acting really, really, really suspicious. And one of the commenters wrote, I just saw that this morning, and he said he went into his supervisor's office once, opened the door and went in and caught her in doing some sort of a illegal substance and all that, and he said that Macron's behavior is exactly like her behavior. And I've seen it before too. When your kids, or even yourself, when you were a kid, if you're getting something from the cookie jar or something and you think you're a little bit clever, you have these looks on your face and all that. Well, that was Macron's face. That was undeniable. And the thing is, I don't know why he's thinking that the camera's not on him when he's trying to hide this napkin, which probably was a napkin. I don't really know, but it's really strange. And he's got that desk behind him. A lot of people are talking about that. Why didn't he put it in the desk? A lot of people said, oh, there must have been a trash can there. So then, but I don't know about that. And then you start to think, well, these are high class people, and there must have definitely been a trash can there, that he could have put it in the trash can, but he didn't. He put it in his pocket or put it underneath his buttocks or something to hide this sort of a deal. And even, I don't know. Anyway, that's another tangent I'm getting off on. So let's see. But like I said, the United States says Russia's asking too much, and but not Ukraine, and Russia gave Ukraine this chance. So what they're trying to do, the United States, and yes, the United States and Ukraine, and of course, obviously, Europe, they're trying to make Russia out to be the loser. Here, they're deep into what used to be Ukrainian territory. They definitely have the high ground. Zelensky's begging for money. He's going begging and begging and begging for money and weapons. And but yet we're supposed to be looking at Russia as the loser. And so Russia has to give up all of this stuff. So we're supposed to make it like, for the first time, that the winner the one who's prevailing in the war is supposed to be the loser. And it's a little bit similar to what was going on in World War I, when actually Germany was on French territory, and yet they lost. They lost World War I, but that was because they had a revolution at home. I've already said that in one video, and that's a very well-known fact. I heard that from a very, very great professor who was knighted by the Queen of England, Sir John Bridgman from the University of Washington. Matter of fact, I think there's even videos on YouTube with him in it. But he was one of my professors, and in the higher level classes, 400 level or whatever, he would get 400 people in a class, and most all other professors, they couldn't even get 30 at 400 level classes. And but he had 400 students, and you couldn't even get in. It's almost difficult to even take a class from the guy because there's so much demand, and the classes are already full. They fill up really fast. So anyway, but yeah, this would be the first time that in truth that the winners are declared the losers, but of course you have to do that to Russia because it's Russia, damn it. So yeah, and of course Scott Ritter, just like I was saying, and he said it even more, and I was trying to look at things a little bit objectively, but he said before I did that the United States is clearly on the side of Ukraine. It's when you're giving all kinds of money and weapons, and Donald Trump, that includes Donald Trump, very obvious. Is Donald Trump sending any money and weapons to Russia? No. He's putting sanctions on Russia. God, so whose side is he on? Oh, I'm neutral. Yeah, you're very neutral on this, Donald. Okay. And if you think about these ceasefires, if you see how a ceasefire works with Ukraine, and I think it was like in one day, the first day of this last ceasefire, Ukraine violated 900 times. But yet they use something, and there's a lot of this, it's weird, whatever they call this this technique of, they call it mirroring or projection. And to me, that's kind of the same thing, but you accuse your opponent or your enemy of what you yourself are doing wrong. You're doing, like Ukraine is violating, and yet they say, oh, Russia's violating, but obviously, who knows if it's, maybe, I don't know, did Russia make some violations themselves? I don't know. But I don't know, it's really interesting looking at Zelensky. And this is kind of what I was wanting to get into in this video. And, wait a minute, what did I try here? But it's hard to find out really what is in his head, and you have to really wonder if he's really in charge in the first place. So it's like, at the very beginning, as you know, well, a lot of you know, Kolomoisky, he was by some people's standards the richest man in Ukraine. Some said he was the second richest man in Ukraine at that time. When you go back in like maybe as far back as I think in the like 2009 and I don't know, into the 1990s, he was probably the second. I don't know, but he rose and he into power, and he got that. He had Privat Bank, this big bank, and he it was like they said undercapitalized. But we'll get a little bit more into that. I was going to talk about this. It's very probable still, even though Zelensky apparently, mostly Zelensky, was able to basically destroy Kolomoisky, the guy who made him who he is. Kolomoisky, he's the guy that funded him in his television adventures. Zelensky and made him a big TV star, and in one thing, and then of course well, I get into that too. I don't know if I think I wrote that. If not, I'll try to say this maybe a little bit after I get to the point, but let's see. But anyway, it was clear that for the most part, Kolomoisky, the guy that funded Zelensky, had a lot of being in charge of Zelensky. He was a Manchurian candidate, and a lot of people today are already Manchurian candidates in a sense anyway, because they're beholden to their funders, the people, what do they call it, their donors, their political donors. So virtually all these politicians, virtually, in some way or form, they're Manchurian candidates of big business, those who have the money, and what do they say? It's fascism, which is the combination of corporate money to government power. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was saying here. Oh yeah, I did write this, that he was made a TV star by Kolomoisky. And Kolomoisky, who is, they describe him as a Ukrainian-born Israeli, which doesn't make sense to me. But yet, he had, all this time, he had citizenship of Ukraine. So how do you call somebody who's born in Ukraine, had a Ukraine passport, a Ukraine citizen, how do you say he's a Israeli-born Ukrainian? I mean, no. A Ukraine-born Israeli. The fact is, he's probably got dual citizenship, but they don't even say that. They call him an Israeli, a Ukraine-born Israeli that has citizenship in Ukraine. It sounds like he's a Ukrainian to me, but, who am I? But anyway, first I'll mention, because I don't think I wrote that. It was about, he was, for the most part, destroyed by Petro Poroshenko, who was the president of Ukraine at that time earlier. And he had, Kolomoisky had Privatbank, and he owned a lot of other businesses. So that's why he was a very rich guy. An oligarch, of course. I guess the richest oligarch at that time. Going back, I don't know, did I write the dates on here? Because I'm not quite sure if I can remember them. Well, yeah, about 2016. Anyway, let me go with my notes. It looks like I did maybe write this stuff. But, so, Kolomoisky, he was also the creator and the funder, the big funder of the anti-Jewish Azov battalion, who hated Jews and wanted the extermination of Jews. They are far, far, far more Nazi than any of the Jews were in the Adolf Hitler times, these people. And there were, of course, except for the Ukrainian, maybe even some of those from the Baltic states, but it's like evidence, like it's very strange. So a lot of these foreign, if you call them foreign Jews or foreign Nazis, they were vastly more Nazi than the German Nazis, because it's just, you go by evidence and the facts. Yeah, and they really wanted extermination of like Soviet people, all people, that were part of the Soviets, whether they liked the Soviet, or whatever they thought it was, communism or socialism or not. They wanted the extermination because they're the master race, Yeah, incredible. And of course, obviously, this stuff is still going on today. Like I said, with the Azov battalion, which was funded by Kolomoisky, who's a Jew, by the way. And he's an admitted Jew, just like Zelensky. And it was just like Yatsenyuk and all of these people, all of the ones that were in charge of Ukraine, all of the top people were all Jewish, but yet they had this powerful Azov battalion that wanted to annihilate the Jews. To me, that never, ever, ever has made any sense, but that's how it is. It's, try to make any sense out of that one. World of contradictions. So anyway, they destroyed this Privatbank. They took over, the state took over it because it was heavily underfunded, I guess by, I don't know how many billions, 5 billion or something like that. So he was also, this Kolomoisky, he was the governor of like this, I don't know, I think it was maybe the oblast that contained Kiev itself. So he was like one of the most powerful governors. It's just like the president of the United States coming out and, dismissing the governor of California. Maybe only Trump can maybe do that, but he's not even able to do that, and he hasn't been doing it. So let's see. So this was back in 2016. So obviously, Kolomoisky, he decided, that's when he was deciding he was going to back Zelensky. He found a guy that he could probably use, who's very ambitious, like Zelensky is. And so he started funding him to grooming him very early to become the next leader of Ukraine. So, and it looks like it worked. Like I said, very, very ambitious Zelensky. I guess there's things written about him. Really ambitious. I mean, wow. So that's what I've been hearing anyway. I don't know. So Biden also helped Zelensky to destroy Kolomoisky. That was even before the SMO. the special military operation, even before 2022. And that's in 2022, Zelensky stripped Kolomoisky of his citizenship, of Ukrainian citizenship, and he seized all of his assets, virtually all of his assets. He nationalized it all, saying it was of strategic value in fight against the Russians. I don't know how many other people's businesses and things that he seized. I mean, for the government, nationalized it, to steal all the profits of most of whatever businesses and have it go to the government. So in other words, the government gets far, far, far more money by, your business. You don't work for yourself, even though you created it. It goes to the government, all of it, virtually. Wow. And I wonder if Petro Poroshenko, he's the chocolate king. I wonder if anyway, I wonder if they took his things too. They're trying to ruin him as well. So they seized, he also owned gasoline companies, so maybe lots of gasoline stations all over in Ukraine too, so they seized that from him as well. And in 2023, Kolomoisky was arrested, and they said money laundering charges and fraud. His bail, because he's still arrested, I think it's probably still set, maybe even higher, at $14 million US, so bail him out, right? And I don't think that he has that himself at all. His value is much lower, apparently. His net worth went from $3 billion in 2016 to less, some say between 100 and 500 million today, but some people put it at much less than that. So he was ruined by both of these guys, and but I guess he still owns a super yacht, and that might be where most all of his value is the yacht that he owns. I might have even seen that yacht, to be honest with you, when I was living in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There was some Russian oligarchs' yachts there, so I can't remember who they were, and Russian and Ukrainian, I suppose. So in those days, it was still considered that Ukraine was linked very, very strongly to Russia, and of course Ukraine always started out as a Russian territory anyway. The name Russian was first given to those that ran the Kievan Empire from Kiev, when Kiev was it. So the term Russian, so in effect, maybe the Ukrainians should be saying that they should call themselves the Russians, and the Russians say that they have to take a different name because we are the true Russians. But they didn't do that. Lots of crazy stuff anyway. You guys look into that, and it's really weird. And I was also reading something, and I should have written it down and quoted, and this was from somebody who wrote this, and it was actually quoting from somebody else, but the book was written in like the early 1960s, and it was about that the Russian Orthodox Christianity, that was a staple of Kiev, because that's where Russian Orthodox Church, for the most, it's if you look at Russian Orthodox Church, it is indistinguishable from Christian Orthodoxy from Kiev. So, and then Zelensky, of course, as you know, virtually destroyed it. He banned that, kicked all these people out, and they seized the church, made it a different church, and all that. So anyway, what else? Okay, then I started looking a little bit more into Zelensky's value, his worth. It's absolutely incredible. This is the big part of this video right now, and I was saying this in light of what was happening with this this Casey Jones driving that train high on cocaine. These guys in this thing here, and like I said, the behavior. Everybody talks how it's the behavior that tells you more than anything. So, but whatever that was, there's something is there. Everybody knows that. That's an undeniable fact, and they're really trying to cover that up in France and all that. You're not even allowed to say napkin about that train ride and napkin, apparently, in France, or you can get prosecuted as a blogger. It's so incredible. So they've had in around 2023, many sources, many said that Zelensky, his value back then in 2023 was $1.25 billion. And 14 months later, people were talking about $5 billion. And that was pretty much agreed upon by a lot of people. So they're saying, wow, this is really shocking. And of course, that's when a lot of the mechanisms went into place. When you have, like, for example, Israel has thousands of people. This is a known fact. I've known this for 20 years at least. They have a lot of people scouring the internet. Bill Gates, there's people scouring the internet. They got mechanisms to go, and whenever some of this information that they don't want people to know about, it's there to delete it or to skewer it or to misdirect it, to change the numbers, to do anything. And it's like, I remember there was some people saying once that, oh, once it's on the internet, it's too late, buddy. You're done for. I mean, for us, that might be true, but not for certain people. When you have a lot of money and a lot of power, you can virtually change things. There was these people making this. I think it was called. It was a lot about real truth, and they had, like, I think 16 people, and working to look and find certain facts, known facts in the internet. I think it was the series. I think maybe they made a couple movies. I think it was called The Last Vagabond, and they were looking for a lot of this stuff about when the software engineer was involved with medications for people. You guys know who I'm talking about. He comes from my hometown, and my cousin ate breakfast with him a lot of time in Burger King, which he had built across the street from his software company. And this guy really loves beef. He's like addicted to beef. So he had a Burger King built there, even though there's no businesses practically anywhere around there at that time, really. I mean, it's like not close. Makes you really wonder, well, what's this Burger King doing here? And almost right next door, I think it was even next door. See, I have my cousin, his family was rich. The doctor, which is my uncle, I guess. He was like the doctor from a lot of the Seattle Seahawks, the family doctor, not the sports medicine doctor. And of course the Sonics, and the most famous coach from the Seattle Sonics once was going to buy his house, which is, I don't know how many miles away from there. But anyway, he owned also a condominium, which was like virtually next door to this Burger King, which like basically across the street from Microsoft. From a software company. And anyway, he would eat in the morning, and that's when the software engineer, he would be also eating, and you get to eat the hamburgers for breakfast in the morning. I thought you had to wait at a certain time after 10. I don't know, maybe the guy went to breakfast at 10 o'clock, but anyway, he would eat hamburgers, and he really loved his beef, and maybe he still loves beef, I don't know. But now they're into fake beef. That same guy is pushing fake beef. And there's more information about that stuff. I have this stuff coming out. That's why this is an explosive video. A lot of interesting things here. So let's see. But these people, they employ a lot of people to go misdirect and change and delete and all this kind of stuff off the internet. So the value, Zelensky's value, and I presume I can still talk about Zelensky. I can't necessarily mention the name of that software engineer, because I've come to the determination that maybe the reason why my videos are really, 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 really gone after, and I was watching like Jimmy Dore, a lot of information about what I'm talking about, not this part, but about this, what I'm going to be talking about soon with insects, is maybe a lot of this is about when you say certain words and information online. I think that the algorithms start going after you, and they really, 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 really slow things down. So that's, I think, one reason why I need 12 hours to download or upload onto YouTube a 1-hour video. I'm kind of thinking that has more to do with it than anything else. So if you start talking about these things and you have so many certain words in your video, I think that's, the more of those words, the longer it's going to take to upload your video. I'm guessing. So anyway, let's see. But I was talking about the net worth, and I had to put out a lot of that information so that you guys can, as backing of what I'm saying about this, how this stuff is working. So anyway, they started realizing that Zelensky was getting more and more wealthy. So like I said, and he probably, because he's got huge amounts of money, he's got a whole bunch of people that are on the internet. So whenever I was looking this morning, and I'll tell you what I saw on the internet, it's more damaging to this guy's credibility as what his net value is than if they wouldn't have changed it, because there's a lot of these publications, and I think even Forbes had put it out. But if you look online, it's like they're saying all this stuff that it's misinformation, and he's only worth this amount of money or that amount of money, and it's but so many people put a lot of this stuff out even as it was occurring. For example, one of the big telling things was, and I think maybe she has her own money, Alina Zelensky, his wife, but they went to New York, and because I remember this one, you start looking at these things, and you know that this stuff is legitimate when they put it out. Like George Galloway put it out. So many people. Alina Zelensky, when she went to New York, and she was there buying some jewelry at some place, and it turns out that it was at Cartier Jewelry, that she was really, really rude and arrogant to one of the staff members in this jewelry shop, who I don't think she had been working there very long and really needed a job, if I can remember properly. But in any case, she got this employee fired. She had this employee fired. And so this employee, and her name, apparently, she even put her name online, who she was, and while she was packing her things to leave, she included a copy of the sales receipts of Alina Zelensky, what she bought this jewelry, and it was 1.1 million US dollars. This is when they were saying, I think Zelensky was, his value, maybe they were saying he was worth maybe 30 million at the time or whatever, when of course it had already been put out that the guy was worth I think it was at that time $2.1 billion, Zelensky. So, but anyway, they were trying to say that was misinformation. Oh no, that's not true. And they're changing a lot of this stuff, even though she took these receipts and she copied them and she downloaded them onto the internet where everybody can see these sales receipts. And then they were trying to change information. I think maybe they'd even change the date to make it look like, oh, this can't be true because she was in Canada at that time, because she was over there for Canada or whatever, but it was like Zelensky's name on there, Alina Zelensky. And there's a whole lot of this stuff. And even when she was in Paris, and I can't remember the amount of, I don't know, it was definitely more than 40,000. I think it was like $400,000 worth of shopping, because she was making a shopping splurge going through Paris when they were there for some, maybe it was G8 or some kind of a thing, spending huge amounts of money. And if they were after Zelensky, why don't, and this stuff is fake, well then why don't they make up fake stuff about Zelensky buying stuff, which they didn't. Why are they going after his wife? Anyway, and then you have also, I think, what was it? I don't know, was the casino or was it the winery or whatever like that? And obviously Zelensky bought that for many, many millions. I don't know, for... So this is so fake. It's so fake that they say he's only worth $30 million. And then I think they said 31 million, like 2 years later. But anyway, he bought some casino. I don't know whether that was 10 million, 20 million, I don't know, whatever. But it turns out they put it underneath a company's name. And it's like Zelensky does not own that company. But it turns out that his wife owns that company. So it's a company, and they're trying to hide it, like proxy with proxy, as things are normally always done. And maybe it's like the winery, or maybe it's like that the royal retreat or something that he bought from Prince Charles. And it just turns out that they're good friends now, Prince Charles and Zelensky. And and he bought this house on Baker Street. So why do people come up with this stuff specifically when it's fake? It's not fake. It isn't fake. These things come out, and then they start and they flood the internet saying it's fake. He's only worth this much money. And now, what was it? Not long ago, he became the biggest shareholder of the entire mining industry of South Africa. And I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars he had to pay for that. But this is some really incredible stuff, how they can manipulate the internet. And like I said, this thing's about old software engineer and a lot of these paralyzed young women and all that in India. And what about a lot of these, smallpox in Africa? And I don't know, maybe this stuff is going to be deleted from the internet. It's weird because Jimmy Dore, he can say a lot of this stuff, but I can't because I don't know, they don't make money on me. So they said, well, we got to get rid of this guy. And anyhow, so they've been going after my channel for a long time. But let's keep going. So we have this software engineer who plays doctor and scientist, and then he's got a lot of these buddies, like Anthony Fauci. But nobody is actually, when you have so many billions, there's nobody that's going to get you. You can buy your way out of anything then. But then if you have just like maybe tens of millions or something, because it looks like, and you've heard it all from yourself, it's already on there. So they can't say, oh, that's misinformation. That old Anthony Fauci, Joe Biden gave him a pardon for everything, even though he had not, even though there was no crimes yet, but he was accused of officially. So he got a pardon before he was even accused of any kind of crime. So an overall pardon for everything. But I don't think there's one that they can possibly do, and they're working on it. Tulsi Gabbard even said that they're trying, they don't think that he can get out of perjury because he lied to Congress. So that might not include perjuring yourself, lying under oath to the Congress of the United States. So they're still working on that because he clearly lied. And a lot of this stuff that I can't even say it on YouTube because apparently, even though it's a very, very, very well-known fact, it's announced by the U.S. government all over, you can't say the stuff on YouTube because they still go with a certain story. So I can't say anything about, the sickness that was going around back there in 2020 for the most part, and the response to that sickness with this medication that a lot of people took. So, at 31 million. I think they're even still saying that old Zelensky's still worth only 31 million. I mean, it's like the biggest joke. That's the biggest joke you've ever heard. He's definitely, and everybody knows, many billions. Some people, I don't think he is, but some people say that he's as rich as Elon Musk. I would put that he's very, very possibly, he's got $100 billion. Incredibly rich guy. You can't say that Zelensky is poorer than a lot of these people that were poor before the special military operation in Ukraine, and yet they became big multimillionaires, and he's only got 31 million? Oh, come on. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I believe that. What about Yatsenyuk, who was the prime minister of Ukraine? And it's a very, very well-known fact. I've even mentioned this guy. It's a known fact that he was a middle-class guy, just like me, maybe, about like me. He didn't have that much money when he became the prime minister of Ukraine. He was put there by Victoria Nuland, as is a proven fact as well, her own audio recordings of her talking to the ambassador. And he is now a billionaire, apparently. See, I don't know this stuff, but a lot of people are saying that. He's got a huge big house and lots, and it's just like she's disappeared off the radio, but I heard he's a billionaire. He's definitely got huge amounts of money because there's lots of evidence that he's got a lot of money. A billionaire? I don't know, but he's got a lot of money, living in the United States, living the real high life. So, and like I said, he didn't have anything. And his salary, what was his salary every month? Maybe $2,000 US or something. So how did he get rich like that? Anyway, he didn't even write a book. I don't know. So 1.1 million was that jewelry deal. I think the shopping spree, was it 400,000? Yeah, but the whole point of this, and you talk about this cocaine trip or something like that, is that they can get rid of all sorts of information. And it's like, is this, I don't know. I don't even know what you call these people. And because, like I said, Israel has this. They have thousands of people. That's a known fact. A lot of people that get out of the military, they go to work and working on computers, and their job is to go around scouring the internet to find anything negative about Israel and to get rid of it, delete it, try to, but there's so much about Israel. There's so much. Then they're going to say, it's all fake. oh, they've only so and so many people have died, and a lot of people have the numbers much higher. A lot of people have the numbers of soldiers killed in Ukraine as well over 1 million, well over 1 million. And I think, what did Zelensky say? 31,000 or something? He said that last year. So now it might only be 40,000 soldiers dead. But yet they need 30,000 every month to replenish the ranks. So, I don't know. They must have a 5 million man army by now. So, let's see. Jimmy Dore, what else he put out there? Because some of the stuff I got, this is what, not that stuff that I just now talked about, but what he put out. Jimmy Dore, he was talking about, and he showed evidence, he showed tapes of footage, and I don't know if these people, what is this here? Somebody put something, some animals don't seem to like it, birds or whatever. But anyway, he was putting up a tape, and to me it looked like something maybe from the World Economic Forum, but you never know. I don't know but anyway, they were talking about in 2016 about ticks, and they were then even starting to use ticks, those blood-sucking things that are hiding in the grass and things like that, to infect human beings. They were talking then how they could use these ticks, and when you get bitten by one of these ticks, then you become, so to speak, allergic to meat. And if you eat meat, red meat, well, he said certain kinds of meat, not just red meat, but if you eat meat, you get very, very sick, like vomiting and all sorts of things. So you cannot eat meat anymore. And this what they were talking about, how great this is, and that they can get people to stop eating red meat, and so they can start getting rid of the cows. This is what I was talking about a little bit ago, about talking about Bill Gates and his like an addiction to beef. Very strange, but they want to get rid of cows. They want a lot of cows even massacred. Like cows are like some big culprits or something. They talk about methane or something, because of farting or whatever. And Jimmy Dore was even saying, well, a lot of animals fart, including something like humans. I tell you what, I believe my uncle, he could beat any cow, as far as producing methane. And Jimmy Dore was talking about his dog. He said his dog is a real fart machine. It's just going all over the place, So I don't know. Maybe they want to get rid of dogs. First, they're going to probably start with cows. I never even heard a cow fart in my life. I don't even know that I don't know that, but they say that. So maybe it's true. So cows are so bad, and there's just way too much tied with this. Bill Gates buying up a lot of farmland. And I'll get a little bit into this stuff here, but I tell you, I don't know, you can do research for days and days on this stuff about methane gas and CO2 and all this, and none of it makes any sense. CO2, the big culprit, CO2, which is the number one most important part of the formula for photosynthesis, CO2. It is one of the most, the most needed molecule on planet Earth. It is the basis of life on planet Earth is CO2, but yet we got to get rid of it. It's so bad. It's like, what the heck? Wait, it's so needed, but yet we got to get rid of it. And pollution, it's not even pollution. It's not even sure that it's pollution. And I'll tell you what, in my opinion, and most real scientists' opinion, it is not pollution. It is not pollution, CO2. You need it for photosynthesis more than anything else. I mean, you need water and all this, but yet we got, I don't know. Like I said, but yet they've convinced everybody it's so bad. It's not the stuff that comes out of the back of your car. The back of your car is carbon monoxide, plus all kinds of other pollutants. So it's not CO2. So let's keep going here. Okay, but they're talking about ticks. How do I go from ticks to the car exhaust? So anyway, you bite one of these ticks, you become allergic to meat, and I guess it takes 2 hours. You start eating meat, and 2 hours later, then you start getting sick. Lots of problems, throwing up and everything. And like I said, it started in 2016, and it's geoengineered, just like mosquitoes. And they are releasing geoengineered mosquitoes And I was talking about a lot of these laboratories, and they had them in Ukraine, and maybe I believe they still do, probably in the western part of Ukraine. So Ukraine was really big into this. Biden was really big into this. What is it? No, not AstraZeneca. That's another Bill Gates funded sort of a deal too. No, it's Rosemont Seneca. Gosh. And this stuff is all documented. I'm not talking any kind of conspiracy theories or anything like this, because this is stuff they've come right out and said. That's why it's explosive video, I tell you what. So, Jimmy Dore, of course, I've said this before as well, and a lot of people talk about this. You know, they talk, oh, these greenhouse gases, how bad they are. We got to stop all this stuff, so we got to kill off all the cows. We got to do with these ticks and all that. And then, but it's okay when they blew up the Nord Stream pipelines, which released more greenhouse gases than any event in human history. More greenhouse gases, but that's okay. That's okay. I think even Greta Thunberg, she said that's okay too. That's okay, because it's going after the damn Russians. And the Russians, they're evil because they're Russian. So, you know. Because they got resources. We got to get those resources because it's Russians that have them. Okay, what else? Okay, yeah. Anyway, yeah, like I said, they've been releasing these, I guess, in Florida and Texas. But, you know, it's a strange thing, one of these ticks. I'll get to that in a second. The CDC, by the way, he put out that the CDC has put out that there is a new sickness that has emerged. It's called the alpha-gal syndrome, AGS. And it's already, they say that 450,000 people are affected by it. I guess there's 125,000 or something around that they've diagnosed definitely with it. And they say, I think they said 450,000 because a lot of people are very sick when they're eating this meat and all that, but yet they don't know that that's what it is that hasn't, affected them, this AGS. But it spreads by the ticks. So this goes a lot slower. And this, like I said, is geoengineered. They've admitted that. They admitted it in 2016. Great work by Jimmy Dore, by the way, that they're talking about these ticks and that you can, so they're spreading this stuff around. That's one way. The mosquitoes is another thing. But it's a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy theory. Maybe they're even going to say that. Of course, like I just told you guys about how they manipulate the internet and they get rid of this information, that information, make people look ridiculous and all that sort of thing. And a lot of you guys that watch this show, you guys know what's going on. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. It's like you see these people. It's not even deep fake stuff. These people are actually saying this, and they admit it, and they did it multiple times. They even put it out in writings. It's just unbelievable. I mean, you can make up stuff to make it look like I don't know, anything. It's just today you can't trust anything. But this stuff sounds to be really, really incriminating. But this tick, they said it comes from the sicknesses. It's from the saliva of these ticks, and one name for the tick is called the Lone Star tick, and it's in a lot of places in the U.S. Southeast, maybe the Florida area. It doesn't mean Lone Star does not mean that it's because Texas is a Lone Star state. It means there's a green spot on the back, and it looks like a star. So it doesn't really look like a star, but that's what they're going by and say it. That's why they call it the Lone Star tick. But there's other names for this tick. So it's a lot of beef, and I'll get a little bit more about this later. I already mentioned about old Billy Boy Gates. I jumped the gun on that, and he really loves his beef, I guess. But now they, and Jimmy Dore he believes he knows who's owning the patent on this, but they come up with a pig, and the pig is a, what is it called? Gallsafe. It's called the Gallsafe pigs. It's a breed of pigs now that you can actually eat the meat, even if you have this sickness. Even if you have this AGS sickness, that you can still eat this meat and you won't get sick. And of course, there's a patent on this pig. It's where you can eat bacon and pork chops, all this kind of stuff from this meat. But obviously it's probably going to cost more. And it's just like a lot of the stuff when they had from Monsanto. Like if they found the genetics, and this is also a fact, if they found the genetics of Monsanto plants in your crops, the heck with cross-pollination, But so if somebody in one field had geo-modified crops that had the genetics with the Terminator gene and all that, and the crops next door or a little distance away had the same genetics, that they can fine you, and in the past they took people's farms, they fined them so much money, huge fines, and these people lost their farms because their crops, they accused you of using the seed from these Monsanto crops without permission, and you didn't buy them or whatever the deal is, so they ruin your farming business. I guess that was in Canada. I remember, what are they called? Seeds of Destruction. I think there was a documentary about that. And so they're going to maybe doing the same thing with this pig. I don't know. But maybe it's a little bit easier to control this. I have no idea. Yes, that's about what I have to say about that part. And Trump, like I said, he's going to open up China. Talked about that already. And there's some other information. This is some fascinating stuff, really fascinating stuff. As you see, and you guys all suspect, that, they were going on with this 30-day ceasefire, and it was like they were cornering Russia, trying to make Russia look like the bad guy, like a provocation, and to where what they were going to trying to do, obviously, they were trying to impose a ceasefire onto Russia. And then a lot of people were putting out, Scott Ritter was one of them, I believe, that while they were going to have this ceasefire, they were going to send peacekeepers, oh, so nice, from the UK and from France and Poland, and flood them all into Ukraine as peacekeepers. Peace. Everybody likes that word, peace. And at the same time, of course, Donald Trump has already given the okay for these, there's really long-range ATACMS, like, I don't know, 125 kilometers, I thought I read somewhere, but even more powerful and more distancing, long-range, I guess maybe missiles or whatever, to fire them into Russia, and lots of things coming from Germany, and like Merz said, he's going to secretly send lots of weapons to Ukraine. He's come out and said that. They're trying to come up, but it's like money is a big deal, so they're trying to, and the United States is like sending already, and they've admitted it, sending Patriot systems, I think maybe even from Israel, from different places, and sending them to Ukraine now. So, and I think maybe that's one reason why Scott Ritter is actually quite bitter right now about Ukraine, or about Donald Trump. Again, he was, kind of hopeful, but he's not anymore, because it looks like Donald Trump is being very, very duplicitous. And he's, of course, I don't know, maybe in the future he's going to be bragging again that he sent even more dastardly weapons to Ukraine. But yet he wants peace. He wants peace. He wants to stop the killing. He wants, I don't know. I tell you what, and a lot of people are now really, really pissed off with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, he comes out, it's just like Zelensky. He uses the press. He uses the press as his cheerleaders. Oh, we're so good. And then his left hand is doing something different, or pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. Oh, I want peace. I want to stop the killing. So that's why, so let Israel continue their bombing. And even Zelensky, a lot of people are saying, or not Zelensky, but Netanyahu. They're having a split right now, Netanyahu and Donald Trump. And Netanyahu comes out and said, no, we just spoke last week. We're best of friends still. There's no split between us. And Netanyahu says he's going to go in for a really, really, and he said it multiple times, a really, really pounding offensive against Gaza. He really wants to go in with full force. This time he said he's going to go in with full force in the next days. Those were his words. So what is the next days? Maybe that means less than 30 days, or less than, I don't know, it's not weeks. So in the next days, I guess that means less than 7 days. Who knows? Everybody might have a different interpretation for days in the next days. So, wow, whatever's going to happen. Oh, and these people are already completely decimated. I don't know. Is there anything left of Gaza? obviously there's still some houses. A lot of time you see these photos and it looks like huge areas of nothing but decimation. And of course that is true. That is true, but there are places, maybe parts of towns and things they didn't really bomb to smithereens yet, but so many people are displaced. And as you know, they have these blockades. And they said, I don't know if it's actually started, but they're going to let certain amounts of foods, like that everybody gets to like 1,200 calories and no more. And I don't know, medications. And the Palestinians keep trying to build up more hospitals, making hospitals or making certain buildings that are still standing and turn them into hospitals, and Israel continues to bomb them. They just bombed one, I guess, yesterday. Boy, oh boy. So, but anyway, what I was going to say, there's a, it's got off on a tangent, but Putin, he kind of checkmated, not checkmated, I guess it's just check, not checkmate. So what was going on with this 30-day ceasefire, and he came up with this direct talks in Istanbul. So it was a checking on, so he kind of stole the limelight around. They're trying to make Russia look bad. They're trying to really smear Russia unless they go along with this ceasefire. They're going to use a ceasefire to flood Ukraine with weapons, to send more troops in, things like that. I mean, according to some people. And then just yesterday, because Putin came up with this new plan and said, okay, let's direct negotiations. And I don't know, Trump, he said, okay, yeah, let's do that. So I don't know, maybe Trump realized that he would look bad if he didn't go for that. I don't really know. It's still kind of difficult to figure out what is, Trump, as a lot of people said, I said this at one time before, and I have maybe sometimes various perspectives, but Trump is out to make Trump look good. I don't know, more than anything. And he's looking for money. He's looking for money to make money deals because then he looks good. When he can make some money, then he looks good. Look at me, I'm a great businessman. I do the deals and stuff like that. I don't know. And sending deadly, more destructive weapons to Ukraine, I have no idea. Trump is, I think maybe Scott Ritter and a lot of people, Trump is just, he doesn't really even have a plan, I think a lot of people say. Okay, so, where am I at here? I've already talked about this stuff. Good, I covered this, but Iran, that's what I wanted to get to. Iran has made an offer. Now, this is tremendous. This one is a checkmate. What Putin did is check, but as the United States relations go, and Israel, towards Iran came up with a checkmate. It's absolutely incredible. This will blow your mind. This will blow your mind. And it's like, what? Did they really say that? I'm sure they did. So Iran came up with a deal for the United States, and they proposed a joint venture, the United States, Iran, to include Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, to go into joint uranium enrichment. So in other words, within Iran, the United States, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Iran will together have a joint venture in enriching uranium to only 5%, to the 5%, whatever Iran needs for nuclear energy or whatever else. And United States will have full oversight in that. And we're not talking about the United Nations, we're talking about the United States. The United States will have full oversight into that. So that's absolutely incredible. In other words, how can the United States actually turn that down? So they will be knowing exactly what Iran is doing with uranium, if they're making bombs or not. To me, that sounds like a checkmate. If the United States turns that down, it'll be undeniably obvious to the entire world that they were just trying to ruin Iran, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with any kind of a nuclear weapons program whatsoever. So the United States has to go for that. Maybe they'll find a way to cover it up with the media, I don't know. But like I said, you guys all just heard it yourself. So and it's in the news. You can look for that. So it's not only that the ball is now in the court of the United States and Israel, it's like they took the entire wind out of the sails of the US-Israeli future attacks on Iran, because Israel has been saying they're making nuclear bombs, we got to attack them. That's the whole reason they wanted to attack them. It's because they're making nuclear bombs. But it doesn't take away from the fact that Israel believes that Iran is supplying the Houthis or Hezbollah and all that. And I don't know if they really are. Maybe they're giving them some sort of components. I have no idea, but there's really not that much evidence that they're really doing so much for the Houthis or Hezbollah or even Hamas. I don't know. Who knows, if there are, because it's not like these entities have huge amounts of weapons, because they don't. I don't know. And if they were sending these things to the Houthi or to the Hezbollah, the United States would definitely be able to see it on satellite, and they have never shown us any evidence whatsoever. So anyway, okay, and again, let's see. Houthis, they fired another hypersonic missile. Train over there. Another hypersonic missile at Ben Gurion Airport in Israel. So I don't know, flights were stopped again temporarily or whatever. People went for cover. Yes, and as you see, Donald Trump, he got a little sick of trying to bomb the Houthis into complete destruction, because the Houthis weren't backing down. They kept saying, well, just keep going, we're going to continue doing whatever we're doing. You can bomb us all you want. And it was costing way over $1 billion for the United States. I don't know, some people said $2 billion already. The operations, the bombing operations 24/7, I would say probably $2 billion. And it didn't work. And the Houthis it didn't slow them down one bit. Wow, incredible. And I don't know, I can imagine that Netanyahu is pretty pissed off about, Donald Trump backing out. United States lost a lot of, 2 Hornets, F-18s, and lots of bombs, and I don't know. And the Houthis were still blocking the shipping to Israel. And then I think even before that, they weren't bombing the airport, and then they started bombing the airport, so it actually didn't get any better. It was actually getting worse for Israel. And the United States was doing it only for Israel. It has nothing to do with the United States. I don't know. But Donald Trump was saying before that time, they're blocking the shipping. And he was not even talking about U.S. shipping. The shipping in the Red Sea, we have to protect it all. And then Donald Trump, he made that deal saying U.S. shipping at the end. So, stop going after U.S. ships. I don't know. Does that mean that the United States can still send things to Israel, but other countries can't? I don't know. Anyway, I didn't go through that much of the news. There's a huge amount of news things I didn't even really look at. I don't know if I'm going to have a chance to go through all that stuff. Gosh, it's just way too much news. And then to make another video, and of course this one will probably be taken virtually all day. It's already going to be 1 hour and 10 minutes for this video. And it's, like I said, I'm in an area, maybe the upload speed is faster here. I'll maybe hang around here for 15 minutes. Anyway, I don't know what's going on with the upload thing. But that's all I have to say for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. A lot of explosive information. It might be blocked. I'm sure they're going to be fighting it at YouTube, Israel. YouTube, it's kind of related, Israel and YouTube, to make sure that maybe I get discouraged and don't send any information anymore. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now. Thanks for joining me, and thanks for your comments. And make sure you push the like, subscribe if you haven't. But YouTube's not sending this out to new people anyway. Okay, till the next one. Bye-bye.